Welcome to the Progressing Careers Everywhere podcast, brought to you by Amoria Group. I'm Helen, Senior Talent Attraction Business Partner at our Manchester office. If you're curious about what career growth really looks like and how your path can evolve over time, you're in the right place. In each episode, we explore the real experiences of people building their careers here, from early steps to long-term development. Today's episode is about something we don't talk about enough: career pivots. What happens when your first role isn't quite your best fit, and how finding the right position can unlock your true potential. In this episode, I'm joined by Ben Ernst, Senior Consultant here at CMC. Ben joined as a 360 consultant, and after building experience in that role, transitioned into a more delivery-focused position, where he's now performing at a very high level. We'll be talking about what that shift looked like and what he learned along the way, and how internal mobility can be real strength. Welcome, Ben. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me, Helen.
Let's get straight into it, and let's start at the beginning. When you first joined as a 360 consultant, what were your expectations and how did you experience that role in reality?
It's a good question. I think, like most people get told when they're coming into recruitment, it's going to be hard work, long hours, a lot of rejection. You're going to have to be really resilient. And to be honest with you, that is what I experienced as well. I remember working very, very hard when I first joined, just to, I guess, try perform at the same level that everyone else was doing that was around me. There was a lot of rejection, but that was fine. Like, I was expecting that. What was the hardest bit for me is like the learning curve, especially at CMC. We've got a bit of a unique model and how we kind of pitch ourselves to our clients. And it took me longer than most, I would say, to kind of wrap my head around that. But, once I got my foot and like my head around it, kind of just found my feet underneath me and then started to kind of crack on.
Great. Okay. And at what point did you start thinking about making a change? Like, was there a specific moment or realization that made you consider sort of moving into more of a delivery focused role?
I think so. It wasn't really something that was available when I first joined CMC. Like, everyone was just a 360 recruitment consultant in that kind of respect. But there were a few people within the US market that had moved to a more 180 or delivery focused role. And I think a year or so in, I was looking at what I've been doing for the last year, and I'd done a few deals and kind of was hitting the targets that I needed to do, but was just kind of struggling at bringing new business in quite consistently. And I was always pretty critical of my business, probably the most critical person in the company of it, to be honest. But I started noticing that, like, I would get past jobs from people who were, seniors or leaders within the team. And every time I got past a job, I would fill it within like 72 hours, like it would be just boxed off. And pretty quickly realized that maybe I was a bit better at kind of doing that side of things and actually, finding the experts for the projects instead of pulling the project in myself, if that makes sense. And I guess saw some other people do it within the business and thought, like, I'm really struggling doing it 360 at the moment, and was experiencing, I guess, pretty difficult times throughout my career, and just kind of thought maybe it would be worthwhile having a bit of a change.
And how did the transition process work for you internally? Like, what kind of conversations and support helped you to sort of make that move?
It was actually quite an easy move internally, really. I think there was a bit of a push from above, not on me, but I think on some people to kind of move into these type of roles. Is like we started to notice the market switch, and it worked previously for some people who would come into the business, and there was that kind of idea floating around, and I think it just kind of made sense for me. So it was raised during a monthly progress review, I believe, initially. And I was asked, what parts do I enjoy and which parts don't I enjoy? And I was like, I'm not enjoying, cold calling people and getting rejected consistently. But when there is a project there and, I'd be required to find experts for it, that's the part that I really enjoy doing, and I love managing that process as well. So I think I just had a few conversations with like managers internally, and everyone was in agreement with the idea that it would probably be a good move for me. And I mean, it took me a little while to get my, I guess, get up and running in that kind of field as well, because I was the first person to do it within like our UK market. But yeah, since then it's been pretty smooth sailing, I could say. It's been good.
I mean, since moving into delivery, what feels different to you in terms of, your strength, your performance and even things like, your enjoyment of the role?
It's completely different in my eyes, to be honest with you. And the good bit about my position is that I'm not just doing delivery, like I'm also pretty tied into our clients within the UK, just because I know them really well. I pretty regularly go on meetings that are business development meetings. I get really involved in the whole job management process to make sure that I'm aware of, where things are up to as well, and making sure that we're meeting timescales in that regard. So it's not like I'm not doing any business development at all. I can still get on the phone if I want to, and that opportunity's there. If I need to call like a hiring manager, it's not an issue. But I think it really does play to my strengths. I don't think my strength was the cold call outreach or the initial outreach. I think my strength really is like managing the process and kind of building relationships from there, and actually just doing a good job by getting these experts in front of the people that need them. What that meant for my performance and my enjoyment is that it just shot up. Literally, I'm performing really well at the moment, just off the back of a few good months in a row in this position, and some pretty good opportunities as well. And I think that's just made me enjoy the role a lot more. Like, I vividly remember being like anxious coming home from work. Like, did I do enough today? Am I going to do enough tomorrow? Am I going to hit the targets that I've been set? In this position, like, it was never like that at all. Like, I would hit them consistently. It was much more enjoyable for me, and it's just made my last year and a half like so much more enjoyable within the company, which is really amazing, actually.
Yeah. And look at you now, smashing it. So looking back, what would you say that you've learned about yourself through that pivot? So in terms of, your working style, your motivations, and or where you create the most value?
It's a good question. To be honest, I think like one of the main things that I learned is I probably should have trusted my gut a little bit earlier. Maybe 9 or 10 months in, I started questioning whether like the 360 side of things was the right position for me. And when you start doing that as well, it starts getting harder to show up to work and work hard during that time too. So maybe to trust my gut, and if I feel like I'm not enjoying something but I'd have an idea for something else, or I hear an idea that I like, then maybe kind of move forward with that a bit sooner rather than later. In terms of the working style, I think it's pretty similar. My day's divided pretty similar than it was when I was working as a 360 consultant. I work well to schedules. I'll try to get as many calls in as I can during a certain hour, and then do admins during a certain hour. I think in terms of creating the most value, what I am really good at is finding the people that are hard to find. I don't I don't know how I do it, but somehow I just seem to stumble across these people, and I think that's probably where I do create the most value. And what it is that I'll do a good job the first time, and then someone will come back because we've done such a good job at CMC the first time, and they'll keep working with us moving forward, which is it's really nice to see.
So I suppose the burning question, this is for the people listening who might be considering a 360 role. Now that you've experienced both, what do you think that position is particularly well suited for, or who do you think? So what kind of strengths or personality traits really thrive in a 360 role, in your opinion?
It's probably the same personality traits that everyone else says. It really is a position where like you need to put a lot of work into it, especially if you're coming into this kind of like business for the first time. There's a lot to learn. And there is pressure on you from, the first month or two to actually start performing with the information that you've been given. So I think anyone who's actually ready to put the work in will do well. It doesn't really matter what kind of background you come from. Like, there's so many different personality types that do well in this position. But I think that the key one is that, people work well. So they work like in an organized manner. They work hard, and they're driven by targets, because consistently, like throughout this kind of business, I don't think you probably go anywhere that doesn't expect some sort of targets to be there. And I think that's what makes a high performer, someone who's ready to put the work in day out, ridiculously organized. There's so many different things that you can do within this position, and being able to manage all of them at once is a learned skill, I would say. And someone who's able to not only hit their targets but be driven by them as well, and really hold themselves accountable, is something that you really need to have to be successful in this position.
I think you're just like living proof of the fact that you don't necessarily need previous sales experience, do you really? Because you'd not come from a sales background or ever worked in recruitment or staffing before, and, look at you now, doing great.
Not at all. I've never even had to pick up a phone for one of my jobs in my life. But I think when I first started, I was just like, oh, we'll just pick up the phone anyway. I had a bit of a weird mentality because I've just come from overseas, and I was like, I don't know anyone here, so I can completely reinvent myself. But you're right. Like, I've never thought of myself as a salesman at all, and somehow I've kind of wrangled my way into a position where I am doing that, but I'm doing it in a way that I like it and kind of good at it as well.
Definitely good at it. And another one, so for people listening who might, people who are similar to where you were at, and they might feel like they're not fully in the right seat just yet. What advice would you give them, about exploring internal opportunities or having those conversations?
Yeah, I would suggest do it. There's no harm in kind of having those conversations with the people that would be kind of involved in that kind of move. And I think I've seen it multiple times within the company that I'm working at the moment, CMC, where people have really succeeded quite well by just moving it internally and finding a position that's the best fit for them.
Thanks so much for joining me today, Ben. It's been great hearing how finding the right fit can unlock a whole new level of performance and confidence. And to anyone listening, thanks for tuning in to Progressing Careers Everywhere. Stay tuned for more conversations. And if you're ready to explore your own career path at Amoria Group, don't hesitate to reach out via amoriagroup.com.